So here we are with Halo Episode 5 from Paramount. And look, after the total abomination that was last week's episode, I can totally see how people are going to praise this episode, specifically for its final 10 minutes, which is the battle scene, and I will talk about that. But this episode is still riddled with silver timeline bullshit that not only does it not make sense to established Halo canon. Now, I understand it's its own timeline, but the established canon makes things make sense. But whereas in this, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't even make sense within its own silver timeline. So look, there's a few little things I want to touch on, but as always, this is just my raw reaction after literally just finishing the episode. So God, where do I even begin with this one? All right, so the first thing I'll talk about is Kwan and Soren. As per always, it's just totally pointless. Nothing really happens. This is the shortest episode, and this probably could have been a solid, decent, isolated 30-minute episode if you took out their little bullshit. So basically, Soren's still pissed off that his ship is gone, and he wants to get back home, and he's basically sick of Kwan's shit, so he handcuffs her to a motorbike that's broken down now, the same bike that was in the last episode, and then he goes off to try and figure out a way to get home, and when he comes back, we see that Kwan has smashed part of the bike that she was handcuffed to. And then instead of running away or anything, she does like a John Rambo and hides in the ground. So when Soren comes and looks, he's like, oh, what the hell happened here? She jumps up and tases him and then steals his gun, holds the gun to his unconscious head, but we don't see her pull the trigger because, well, we know that's not going to happen. That's pretty much all that happens with that little side story. So now, we are dealing with Master Chief, UNSC, the rest of that silver timeline, not Fred, not Kelly, not Linda. I've learned her name is Kai, now the one that took out a pellet. They've set up a makeshift base for the artifact that they found, and Miranda's been sent in to kind of prove what she can do. But eventually she gets taken off the team from Jacob Keyes for her own safety. And this whole episode is just her not only having mummy issues, it's just straight up parent issues. Like in the last episode, we saw her have complete full-on mummy issues. Now it's just entire episode of her having parent issues. No butt cheeks in this episode, which is really rare for this show. There is not a single ass cheek in this whole episode. So we have we'll say Halsey, the science team, they're running their experiments on this artifact that John found in the previous episode. And they want John to stay away from it because they figured out that this one can cause a hell of a lot more damage and they don't know how it's going to react, even with him being a blessed one. Okay, fine. So then Master Chief, he's still having memories, flashbacks from when he was a kid. And we actually do see at the start of the episode that Jacob Keyes and Miranda did approach John, not while he was at school, like in the book, but they saw him at some kids camp type thing. And you know how in the Fall of Reach book, we see John playing King of the Hill and he's throwing all the kids down the hill. In this one, he accidentally, they're on some makeshift shitty bridge thing, the kids are having fun and one kid falls off and John catches him as a child. These are children. John catches him with one hand and lifts him back up with one hand. I'm like, well, there's no way a child could lift up another child with one hand. I do not see a reality where that's happened. These are children. They haven't gone through any Spartan augmentations or anything like that. But at that moment, that's the moment when Halsey's like, yeah, I likes you and I want you. So that's the moment Halsey picks him. John later has another flashback where he remembers himself being kidnapped from inside his own house, which I still think his parents must have let him in, or Halsey in, because we see that in the previous episode. So he has a memory of him being kidnapped, and he kind of manages to shake loose a little bit, and then Halsey's right in front of him and jabs him with something to make him unconscious. So he talks to Jacob Keyes about this, but he hasn't remembered that Jacob Keyes was kind of part of this as well. And Keyes is getting a little bit worried about all this, and he's all like, okay, I will definitely look into that. So we're getting towards the part where John, he wants more answers. He wants more flashbacks. We're calling him Master Cheeks. So Master Cheeks walks up to the artifact. But what I found... Oh, actually, before that. So we have John talking with Kai, the other Spartan who's taken out her pellet. And John instantly knows, you've taken out your pellet. I can tell by the grease in your hair. Which, honestly, It's so obvious from the previous episode that she's taking out a pellet. I don't know how anyone, the other Spartan specifically, hasn't called it on that. And then John's like, nah, you can't be a part of the mission. You got to stay on the ship because God knows you're not ready for anything. And then she's all like, well, what about you? And I'm like, well, that's a fair question. So yeah, he kind of cancels her and puts her on the ship. But then John wants to go get more answers and attempt to get more memories unlocked. So he walks up to the other artifact, right? Oh, wait, no, before that happens, they accidentally activate the artifact, right? And it causes this massive sound wave and it hurts everyone's ears. So what does John do? Take off his helmet. Everyone's like, ow, my ears, this fucking hurts. And he just takes off his helmet to look at it. Very bizarre choice. That's the thing that he keeps doing in this show throughout many episodes is, why would you take off your helmet in this specifically, potentially very harmful circumstance? So when that all gets activated, we see that Maki is over on Madrigal. She can kind of like have an orgasm and feel where the second artifact is, so she starts heading off there. But one little thing in that part as well is we see her talking with her elite team, and it's still very bizarre to see a human in the Covenant talking down to anyone in the Covenant. Like, okay, these elites are just like, we got to kill all humans, but this one's cool. I know the whole blessed thing, but I still think the blessed ones completely and utterly makes the whole mantle of responsibility pointless. And it also makes the human Covenant war pointless as well. So yeah, she has her orgasm and then she knows where the next artifact is. But then we jump back to John, who goes to walk into the artifact, and they see him walking towards the artifact after being like, stay away from this artifact. We don't know what it's going to do to you. He walks in there, touches it, has another flashback. Halsey comes running in like, what are you doing? And then he decides to attack Halsey. Because this is a point that myself and many others have been making, and we've been reiterating this specific point over on our breakdown live streams, which you should definitely tune into. Lying to Spartans has got to be one of the stupidest things that UNSC has thought of. In actual Halo canon, they do not lie to Spartans. They make a very specific point of being like, look, don't lie to them. These Spartans all know they were kidnapped as kids. Do not lie to them, because when they find out, and they will find out if we're lying to them, they're going to turn on us and we're fucked. And that's exactly what happens. Validation, 100%. Master Cheeks attempts to punch the shit out of Halsey. He goes to Superman punch that hoe, right? And then Cortana kicks in and deactivates him. And you'd think, this would be a very good time to restrain him, maybe lock him up in the ship. Nah, it's all good. It's all good. Just leave him there. Just leave him there till he wakes up. And then as he wakes up is when the battle begins to happen. And as a Halo fan, hearing Cortana saying slip space rupture detected, I really like that little detail. Okay. So anyway, then the Covenant arrives and the battle is on. And this battle goes for about 10 minutes. And I will say, in isolation, the battle it's okay. It's not bad. It's not terrible. There's a few wonky CGI moments. We finally get to see grunts and jackals. Jackals with energy swords, because that's a thing. And the one elite that I'll talk about later that's in this battle doesn't have an energy sword. We see Master Cheeks, do some damn near Master Chief-like things during this battle, including jumping on Banshees, going on like a killing spree and all this type of stuff. There was one little thing that I thought was a little silly. It's when Cortana tells him to switch to his secondary and Cheeks replies by saying, I know how to play the game. I felt there was a little bit of a fourth wall break, and it kind of took me out of that moment a little bit. CGI's a little bit wonky here and there, but for the most part, I'd say it was passable, the battle scene. A few cool moments here and there. We get to see Chief, wreck motherfuckers with the shotgun. We get a mini Warthog run as well. But the weird thing is Kai, the other Spartan chick who's taken out her pellet, she kind of becomes useless during the fight as well, and she starts taking big hits. In my opinion, it should have been enough to kill her. So Master Cheeks decides to disobey orders by jumping off the Warthog, which has the artifact on it, which they're supposed to take to the ship to get out of there. He goes to save Kai, which ends up in that shotgun battle scene. But what I found really weird is we have the Jackals, who have energy swords, but the Elite, who doesn't have an energy sword, is just kicking Kai on the ground. He doesn't pull out an energy sword. He doesn't pick up something off the ground to finish her off with. He just kicks her. And then Master Cheeks beats its face in. Like smashes its face in with his bare hands. It looks pretty cool to me. And then we had one moment that I wasn't expecting. A brute chieftain with a gravity hammer arrived. I'm like, oh, here we go. This could be really cool. Chieftain grabs the artifact and gets on out of there. So the Covenant have taken control of the second artifact. And just as the episode ends, we see Marquis do that trick again where she pretends to be a human in distress. And she falls from an escape pod off the Covenant ship and onto the ground. And Master Cheeks finds her, and she's all like, oh, and that's kind of where the episode ends. So, like, ultimately, Silver Timeline makes no fucking sense. But I really think this episode's going to get praised a lot because of the last 10 minutes. And the last 10 minutes, like I said, in isolation, it's not bad. Like, the actual battle scene, there's just a lot of little things in there that do not make sense. And once you start to really think about it, it all kind of falls apart. It's better than the opening battle scene from the first episode. I didn't really like this episode, but I like this length. I think all the episodes should be this long. I'm looking forward to doing the breakdown on this one. It's definitely better than last week's episode, but it's still not good. So what do you guys make of it? Let me know in the comment section down below. I'll be doing the breakdown over the weekend with myself, Lady Gravemaster, Disparu, and Epic Mike, and we're going to have quite a bit to say. So make sure you do have the bell notification on, all that good stuff, and I will see you all in the next video.